Hello everybody and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan and I ever so appreciate your support. We're looking at my smallest tank in the fish room. It's not terribly small. It's 11 gallons, perhaps 12, I forget, one of the two, not 10. And it's a long form aquarium made by Lifeguard Aquatics. So it's slightly less money than the UNS 12 gallon, which is where I started, what I was going for with this tank. And it is sitting on top of this longer tank, which I featured in the last video. So both of them occupy this rack and give the horizontal vibe to my fish room. So I did get fish for this one, and I hinted at what I was going to get, and they are Sparkling Gourami. Now let's see if we can find some. We're gonna take, there we go, boom. So the Sparkling Gourami, at first pass, seems fairly drab, but in fact, it's a fish about details. There's another one. And you see when they are sparring with one another, their fins will flare, and you'll get a lot of interesting behavior and more fantastic color. I beg your pardon about the reflection. I'm going to try to work around it. My hope is to incite breeding behavior in this heavily planted tank. I've got it set up so it would be a fabulous place for them to create a nest, which they do, like betta fish. They would create a bubble nest up at top, either here in this lushly planted, heavily hardscaped section, or over here beneath this awesome piece of driftwood, of which I have immersed growth that's now starting to root. Even between the frog bit, you can see roots from the pothos, as well as some of the other plants I have in here. My mother gave me a couple vines, and the name escapes me. And at first, all those leaves were withered, but I stuck with it because YouTube said these plants do grow well in water, and sure enough, those long, fine roots are from that plant. So my hope is for the immersed growth to respond, and I'll let it work its way into the fabric of this shelving system. I also put some Christmas moss in here, which I have to keep wet, otherwise these LEDs might dry it out, and probably still will, but it's not the end of the world if that happens. It still adds character. But underneath, in this dark reclusive area, you see another Sparkling Gourami. I have a total of 5 in this tank, and the only way you can do that is if it's heavily planted and, in my view, long. Long means that each fish in the tank can occupy its own territory. If it were a standard 10 gallon, I would get a lot more vigorous sparring. Here you see 3. And that's not to say they don't bicker while they're deciding the hierarchy of the tank, perhaps choosing mates. It's very difficult to sex these fish, but if a fish is being harassed, there's numerous places for it to find refuge. I also have in this tank, from a planted perspective, somewhat rare and costly flamingo cryptocorn. There's 2 there and 2 there, and I'm happy to say, after a little bit of initial melting, they're looking pretty good. There is a pygmy Coreodora, of which I have numerous, as well as Otocinclus catfish and some snails in here. I have minimal algae thus far. I am running CO2, but it's the plants that are keeping that algae at bay. Look at all those beautiful roots sucking up nitrates from the top water, and then countless epiphytes in here. We have, I'm not sure if that's pearlweed which is an ugly sounding name for a very popular aquarium plant. There's some Wellicki right there. So some stem plants, fast growing. My favorite plant, the Hygrophila pintafata. And I've cut it down, so now it's doing its bush behavior more than the stem plant vibe that you see in the back there. But I have both in here, both kinds of growth happening. And the water is crystal clear. The fish seem happy. I'm happy, and I hope you are too. As always, keep your hands in the tank. Ciao for now.